Welcome to the final challenge of the loops section. In this challenge, what I'd like you to imagine is say that you're creating like a cannon, let's say, that is not controlled by you, and it's maybe the enemy's cannon, and it shoots cannonballs that have a random height. So you, the player, don't know what height the cannonball will be reaching, and I want you to randomly assign a height for the cannonball and have that number count all the way up until it reaches whatever that randomly assigned height is, and then exit the loop. So I'm going to get you set up for that, and then I'm going to ask you to solve it on your own. So I'm just going to right click and create a C# script and call it, I guess, Cannonball, and then go ahead and open it up. So you're going to want some sort of variable for the height for the cannonball to reach, and you're going to want a loop probably in start, randomly assign the height, and then loop through until you reach that height. And then maybe like print a message that says like cannonball at the top. Like it reached the height of its trajectory. And you might be asking yourself, how do I know which loop to use? And the answer is there's a whole bunch of ways to solve this challenge. You can solve it using a while loop, a do while loop, a for loop. It can be done a myriad of ways. What makes sense to you is how you should do it. So if I'm looking at this, the loop that makes the most sense to me is probably a while loop to check if height is like greater or not than the maximum height. And if it is, then just break out of that loop and print that message. Anyway, whatever loop that you use, as long as your code works, that's the loop. So do your best. I'm going to give you a second to pause the video here and try it on your own. And if you get stuck, I'll show you maybe a couple solutions in just a second. Okay, so pause it. See you in a sec. All right, so hopefully you pause the video and hopefully you solve this challenge on your own. If not, I'm going to show you maybe a couple solutions right now. So let's start with a variable for the height for the cannonball to reach, which will just be like a private int maximum height. And then I will serialize that so we can see it in the inspector. And then let's randomly assign the height at the beginning of start. So max height equals random.range between, I don't know, like 100 and 200, something like that. And it will only go up to 199 because it's exclusive, and that's fine. And we're also going to need a variable for the current height of our cannonball, right? We know the max height is randomly assigned, so I'm going to say private int current height. And by default, this one equals 0. So we know we're starting at 0. And when current height equals the max height, that's when we want to exit out of our loop. So I'm going to show you how to do it first with maybe a while loop. While the current height is less than our maximum height, we want to loop through and we want to increment. So we would say current height plus plus, right? So eventually the current height won't be less than anymore. So there is an exit condition for this while loop. And then we need to, once it does reach that, then we can print out the message debug.log current height is, and we could append that to our current height, which should be the same as our max height. Let's test this out and see if this works. And make sure that your script, of course, is attached. So the cannonball script is on my sphere. And we can see right now the maximum height is 0. When I hit start, it set the max height to 169, and let's look at our console, and current height is 169. So it looped all the way up from 0 up until it hit the max, stopped, and then printed that out. What if we were going to do this with a for loop instead, right? Let's see, instead of this while loop, let's do it with a for loop. So I'd say for, and then open this up. And typically we would use the integer I, right? So for int I equals 0. So we're starting at 0. And as long as I is less than the maximum height, we will increment I. So we're going through from 0 all the way up through our max height. And what we want to do inside is we want to increment up through our current height, right? So current height is going up as well. And then we want to check if our current height equals the maximum height. And if it does, we will debug.log and say like reached the top and then break. And then I'm going to also append that to current height just so we can see what it is. Plus current height. Let's hit save and just test it out. All right, so on our sphere, the max height was set to 123. And in our console, it says reach the top, 123. Okay, perfect. So that's how we would do that with a for loop. And what if we were going to do it with a do while loop, right? Let's say a do and then while. So do what? what do we want it to do? We want the current height to plus plus for as long as the current height is less than the max height, right? And as soon as the current height is no longer less than the maximum height, we can debug .log and print out we reached the top and add that to our current height. Right? And this does have an exit condition because current height is starting at 0. Eventually, it won't be less than the max height anymore, so this should end after between 100 and 200 repetitions. Let's save this and test it out. All right, on our sphere, the Cannonball script, the max height was set to 174. And in our console, we reached the top at 174. Perfect. Okay, so that's been 3 different ways to solve this challenge with a while loop, a for loop, and a do while loop. Awesome. In the next section, I thought we were going to do coroutines, but I think the next section actually it makes sense for us to go into arrays. That way you can get some experience using a for each loop as well. Okay, so great job in this. I will see you in the next section that is all about arrays.